Very, very good afternoon to all of you. I'll be talking about one of the very relevant topic in today's world, artificial intelligence, specifically the natural language processing with a focus on the social good applications. So if you see that AI is nowadays the most discussed technology topics, and you'll find its application in almost every spheres of life. It shows that the software market of AI will grow tremendously in the next few years. And by end of this particular year, it will reach up to $126 billion. There are a lot of organizations already have implemented AI into some forms. And at the end of this year, 95% of the customer interaction will be powered by artificial intelligence. Now, it is very important to understand that how AI technology is to be used for the social good applications. If you see that the UN Sustainable Development Goals, you will find that AI is being used in almost every spheres of these Sustainable Development Goals. Particularly for the NLP, you will find its applications in education for example, personalized learning, creating the bot to assist the students, essay scorings. Then healthcare, there are a lot of applications starting from mental health counseling, then information extraction from the clinical records, and so on. For the peace justice also, the translation of documents, the misinformation detections, negotiations, conflict resolutions, and also you'll find its application in the climate, the gender equality, and the reduced inequalities. So it shows that the language is one of the very powerful communication tool. Language can be used for unifications and for inspiring in nature. It can be influencing, it can be impactful, and at the same time, it can be manipulative and divisive. So it is our responsibility to make use of NLP technologies in such a way that we don't use it for the manipulation, for the radicalization, or create the division in the society. If you look into the language worldwide, we have almost 7,000 languages all over in the world, and a significant portion of these languages, it's almost 40% languages are in the endangered zone. They are not digitized properly, and because of that reasons, we should take care of these languages. We can digitize it, and we should build technologies for the language diversity and the cultural diversities. Now, if you look into the India is a multilingual country with a lot of linguistic and cultural diversities. There are 22 languages officially spoken in India, which are approved by the constitutions. But in fact, there are almost 1,900 languages, many dialects. And these languages are derived from almost all the linguistic major families in the world. Many of the languages are spoken by the large number of populations. For example, Hindi, if you see that it ranks 4th, Bengali, it ranks 6th all over in the world. Now, if you see that in 2022, our government has taken a very good initiative in the form of Bhasini, which mandates to create a sustainable ecosystem for the language technology to empower its citizens to get all kinds of information in their own languages. So that we'll be able to break the digital divide and connect all the people in India and can provide the information in their own languages. There are several technologies, for example, machine translation, optical character recognition, ASR, TTS, as well as different language resources, leaderboard for evaluations are being created as part of that. Now let's see that what do you mean by the NLP, natural language processing. If you look into the operations of natural language processing, it happens in different layers. It starts with the morphology, then it talks about the grammar in the form of assigning grammatical tag to every word in the sentences, then the grouping of the words, then the parsing, semantics, which deals with the meaning, and finally the pragmatics, discourse, and co-reference. Now the complexity of the operation increases as we move from the down to the up. So we have to ensure that all the lower level components are robust enough so that the upper level operations become effective. Also, we can consider NLP from the three-dimensional view, where in one side you have the language, one side you have the different problems of NLP, and one side you have the different ways to solve it. So the proper combination of the language, the problem, like parsing, for example, in Hindi, now you have to choose whether what kind of algorithm is suitable. Now, if you look into historically, we have came across a long way. There has been phenomenal growth, a lot of tools, products have been developed. Google Search, for example, Google Translations, Alexa. There are a lot of other tools for mental health counseling, for medical health cares, and so on and so forth. And most of the technologies, until 2010, were heavily dependent on the classical machine learning algorithms. And that requires a lot of feature engineering. But nowadays, the situation has changed. Everything is deep learning oriented. That does not require any kind of feature engineering. And you can develop the system very quickly. And it has been possible due to a very good representation of the word, the sentences, the document, and because of various techniques. For example, recurrent neural network, transformer, reinforcement learning. All these methods have enabled the development of various recent models, like for example, Llama, ChatGPT, different version of GPT, and also recently the DeepSeek. But one of the problems with such kind of models is the explainability. How can we explain such kind of models? That will be of very much interest. Now, behind all such technology, data play a very important role. Now, we can say that data is the driving force of the civilization these days and not the well. Now, how to make use of the data efficiently? We are in the era of big data with a lot of volume, variety of data, and also their transmission rate is very faster. So now wave is an important source. Wave has connected the whole world, and a lot of information is available in the wave. But at the same time, you have to also decide whether remaining always connected is good or bad. Sometimes remaining disconnected can help you to preserve the diversity, cultural diversity, and also to do the good innovations. So at the same time, you see that the human-to-human communications, that how it has changed over a period of time. Even people are sitting in the one place, they don't talk to each other, but they are busy in their own world. So now how can you increase this human-to-human conversation, the communication? One of the important technology towards the change in the conversational agent. And in this conversational agent, nowadays is very different from whatever you conceived in 1960 in the form of Elijah. Today's conversational system should be more engaging with the users, with the speakers. It should understand the speaker's emotion, the sentiment. It should be able to understand the context, and with the deep natural language understanding, deep natural language processing, machine learning techniques, this could be possible. Chatbot, if you see, is the most simplest way, simplest form of conversational AI, and again, its market size is tremendous. It shows that almost by 2032, its market size is expected to grow up to $36.3 billion with a tremendous growth rate of 24.4%. Now let's see that how can you make this bot to behave in an empathetic manner, which is more subtle than the sympathy. Because you have to see yourself from the eyes of the others. You have to see yourself from, listen yourself from the ears of another, and you have to feel with the heart of the another. How can you make such kind of systems? Okay, that was the research. Let's take this particular example. In the first case, you see the person is saying that I finally got promoted today at work. Now, if the bot is responding that why would anyone promote you, this conversation may not continue for a long time. But rather than responding in that manner, if the bot says that congrats, that is great, then the speaker realizes that the bot has understood its emotion, and because the bot has congratulated the speakers, so these interactions will continue for a long time. By empathetic conversational AI, we want to achieve this. And there are a lot of challenges. For example, when two people speak, even you are speaking with the bot, the emotions changes over a period of time. The emotions also can be more than one emotions with a different degree of intensity. Whether the machine can understand such kind of variation of the emotions and can generate the appropriate responses, that is very important. So without understanding the intent, without understanding the context and the mood, this may not be possible to achieve. Another aspect of conversational AI these days, can you make the bot to behave in a polite manner, okay? And politeness is a very important property in our day-to-day communications, which is a very difficult task to achieve through a computational process. In the first example, you see that I have taken a conversation between a customer care agent and a customer. Customer was facing some problem due to the problem with the internet services. And the customer has reached out to the agent, and the agent replies that how can I help? That may sound very mechanical. So it is important, on the other hand, if another agent responds that we are sorry to hear that you are having trouble, help has arrived, how can I help? Now the first two sentences, if you see these expressions, are making the situation more comfortable. So even if the customer was facing some problem, now the customer will not be unhappy, and even that services he or she may not discontinue further. So how can you achieve this? How can you make the bot to express the apology, to express the assurance, to express the appreciation? That is very important. Now, this is very difficult in a sense because the politeness can change across the gender. It can change when you are talking to older people and younger people, level of politeness are different. It can also depend on the culture. It can also depend on the languages. Now, how can you actually deal with all such kind of nuances? That is very challenging to make the bot to behave in a polite manner. We tried to develop this conversational AI that makes use of the empathy and the politeness, particularly for the counseling for the mental health patients, particularly the women and the girl child who have been harassed online. Now, how did we do that? If you look into these examples, you can see that the colored portion of the text, how it is making more engaging with the expression of politeness. So for example, kindly is a word. Then if you see the right side, that we are really sorry to hear about this. So you are trying to make the bot more engaging, to make the situation more comfortable so that victims can narrate their incident with the counselors. You can also make it more persuasive, which is again an important property, that a counselor has suggested some kind of medication. So it is important to follow up whether that is being properly taken care of. So these kind of expressions that a small step can help you. So this is making the situation more persuasive. So here the counselor is persuading the victim for the social good. So this kind of persuasion is acceptable. So how can you amalgamate this empathy, the politeness, the persuasion to make a real bot? So that was the challenge. We collected a lot of data by studying the real cases, collecting the data from the authentic sources, created the dialogues, using the large language model, reinforcement learning, by designing appropriate reward function, the strategies, dialogue act, we create a model that can actually converse with the victims in an empathetic manner. Okay? Another important application these days is the machine translations, particularly in a country like India, where we have 22 official languages. Now, it has a lot of application in almost all the areas. One of the areas is the judiciary. Now, Indian judiciary system is a four-tier system. There is a subdivisional court, then you have the district court, then high court, then Supreme Court. Now, all the decisions that are taken, the proceedings that happen in the lower court, that happen in the respective regional languages. But when this goes to the Supreme Court, everything is in English. Now, a case which has been going on for 5-6 years, you can imagine the volume of text will be. It may be 1,000 pages, 2,000 pages. Now, who does these translations? The court has the professional translators. The human has to read line by line and do the translation manually, which is extremely time-consuming and cost-sensitive. Now, whether NLP, whether AI can help in this front, can it do the translation automatically, all the proceedings that happen in the lower court, and a professional translator only will look into the output to understand whether the important information, critical information are not misinterpreted. Otherwise, what will happen, that what Honorable Supreme Court identified, that there was a delay, significant delay because of this process, and justice delayed is justice denied. Another sector is the e-commerce. If you want to make the e-commerce very popular, and if you go to the rural areas, let's say panchayat level, block level, now you have to enable the people to choose their product in their own language, to see the catalogs in their own language, to see the product reviews in their own language, and to place the order. So we tried this project with Flipkart, where we wanted to make all the reviews written in the Flipkart site to be made available in the vernacular languages. And that was one of the very important necessity that we started during COVID 2021. Now let us see that there are plenty of other applications, but what are the current trends of natural language processing? You see that current trend in natural language processing is the large language model. It is dominating the entire discipline of natural language processing. But at the same time, we have to see that the ethical part, okay, the responsible part of NLP. Then we have multimodal learning, not only text, but also you need to amalgate the information that may come from the audio, from the video, from the images. How can you combine all of them together? Now, how can you write the codes using NLP techniques? How can you transfer the code from one language to the other language? Code transfer is another problem. Now, transformer-based architecture is at the core of all such development. Reinforcement learning is very important. As I mentioned, that ethical consideration is very important. Also, how can you make the NLP system more knowledge-grounded? So knowledge-enhanced NLP is playing a very important role. But at the same time, the deployment is important. So if you have a very large language models, a lot of parameters, then fitting that into edge devices is a problem. So you have to focus on developing a small language model that you can easily fit on the edge devices. So that could be the trend. So it shows that while there is tremendous growth of natural language processing, a lot of practical applications, but there are a lot of technical and ethical challenges. How the models will work with the less resource environment, resource means in terms of the data, with a low computing environment. How can you ensure that your models does not generate anything offensive? It is not biased to a particular caste, particular creed, particular religion. How can you ensure that the models will be scalable to the new languages, to the new domains very easily? So these are all the aspects. At the same time, you also have to ensure that your models can defend the different kind of attacks. So adversarial attacks plays a very important role. So we all see that NLP has a huge prospects in the coming days. But at the same time, we also should know this caution by Noam Chomsky, who said that you do not get the discoveries in science by taking huge amount of data, throwing them into a computer and doing statistical analysis of them. That is not the way you understand things. You have to have theoretical insights. So this, as a NLP researchers, responsible NLP researchers, you should keep this particular statement by Chomsky in mind while you are building the NLP systems. Now to conclude, we have all known that language plays an important role. Every word has the power to heal, to unite, to inspire. With NLP, we are not teaching the machine to understand our language only, but we are teaching machines to amplify humanity's most important voices. If words can change the world, then it is our responsibility to ensure they change it for the betterment of the society, for the betterment of the mankind. Thank you for your attention.